"Don't stop," my brother yelled as I caught up to him, running for my life. We ran past two rock-like boulders on either side of the trail, then I decided to turn and look back. A figure jumped onto one of the rocks and stood in a crouched position. Its head was locked towards us, and I knew it was watching us as we ran. The figure was wearing a fur pelt type of thing on its back, and the pelt had eyes and ears of something on its head. The figure had long black hair that I could see under the pelt that it had on, and it looked to be female from what I could tell. Her fingers were gray from what I could see was maybe ash or something else. There was also a feather attached to one of its forearms. I saw its mouth move, and sounds that she made were horrific, sounds that no normal human could produce. The disorienting coyote sounds we heard were coming from her, and it was still deafening. To my horror, she jumped off the rock and started to move. It moved like something that has never properly learned how to use its joints, transitioning from standing to a quadrupedal run into one sickening fluid motion. It was dark, a smudge against the dying light, but then it got up and started to full sprint at us, and I screamed in terror as I saw this thing pretending to be a woman start to close the gap on us quickly, at a speed that was impossible. My brother reacted on instinct and yelled before firing the rifle. The thing jumped over us and ran ahead into a nearby bush before turning to shriek at us with what sounded like horrible sounds from earlier. It then took off into the bushes without rustling even one bush straw. "I hit it! Holy cow, I hit it!" my brother exclaimed in relief and panic. I snapped out of my thoughts and I saw him pointing at the ground. I looked down and saw blood on the ground before it traveled along the ground. It was in the direction of where the thing disappeared to. The blood was strange. It looked red from an angle, but it looked black from another, and it scared me even more. Let's go, my brother said, roughly pulling me. We got home eventually and told our parents everything that happened. Our mom got up and left the kitchen after we were done explaining, and our dad merely sighed and sat quietly. They never responded to our explanations. Only the months following that event, we moved away from the farm and sold the goats. We never got back there ever since, and our parents urged us to never talk about it again. But sometimes I can't still help but wonder what the hell that thing was. So this was part 2 of the first story. I'm going to post these back to back to one another, so just scroll on. You can find the first half. Really quick, if you're watching this on a YT compilation video, they do not have permission to utilize my content. Please find me on YT, Spooky Scary Ghost Stories, or on Instagram or on TikTok. I do post daily on all 3 of those platforms. P, thank you for sending this in. This was horrifying, to say the absolute least. It kind of gives me Montana vibes. I don't know why it does, but it definitely makes me feel like you were in Montana rather than in Arizona. I have been getting a lot more Arizona stories, so I do love that for me, because I don't have a lot of stories from Arizona. Arizona is very close to my home state, so it's really cool to hear these stories. There's plenty of stories from my home state, but still. I am also curious as to what this is. However, it does remind me of a movie, and if you've been here for as long as you have, if it's been a long time, you'll know that I always correlate to movies. There was a movie recently, but I cannot remember the name. My partner and I are big fans of like the first person view when people are filming. And there was one about some people that were going, I think it was like the Frog Man or something. No, that was a different one. I can't remember, but all these people went out into the woods. They stayed at this girl's campsite that her and her family owned, and they went out in the middle of the woods, and this big creature-like thing chases them down and essentially gets all of them. That's what it reminded me of. I will look it up really quick. Hold on. I can't find it. Anyways, I can't remember what the creature was in the name of the movie, but it sounds exactly like this. And I don't know why I'm drawing a blank so hard. Usually I'm quick with it. Do you know what I mean? I think it was a wendigo. I think it was a wendigo because I just went ahead and searched up the description of what the character was in the movie, and I believe it was a wendigo. That's kind of what it sounds like, right? I mean, it was very humanoid-like, but it also it was almost like it was wearing all of its victims. Does that make sense? Like it was wearing all the different animals and stuff, and I don't know, that's kind of the vibe that it's giving. But this is so insanely creepy, especially for a couple of kids to experience themselves. I know that you guys it doesn't really sound like you guys were like 12 or 13, but it's still terrifying to think about, right? I can't wait to hear your guys' comments. Let me know what your thoughts are. I love you guys. Have a great day. Bye.